Welcome back into the Escape Pod for the second half of our conversation with Mayor Jason Salamun. Last week, he shared about his rather tumultuous childhood, his mother's addiction and its effect on his family, how his grandparents served as a lifeline, and what prompted his move from West Texas to western South Dakota at age 11. Today, he talks about goal setting and the off-road adventure that is small city politics. This escape artist has a lot to share, including a message of hope that you too can get through tough times. Enjoy.
If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
So, goals. I mean, you've talked about having goals and goal lists and all the things. Is there anything on that goal list for you that you haven't ticked off yet?
Yeah, when I was first in the Air Force, I wrote a list of like a bunch of things I wanted to do in my life. And then I came across that list years later and kind of unconsciously or subconsciously or whatever accomplished almost half the goals on that. This is pre-running for office or anything. I thought I'd maybe run for something when I was an old man. So politics was like not like the be all end all for me. Still isn't. I mean, I love serving as mayor and would certainly continue public service if that's what I'm supposed to do. But so there are things, I've got to do in my life. Serve in the military was on that list. Be a business executive was on that list. As you probably know, I did that for 20 years, served in business. I was an executive at Black Hills Federal Credit Union. Great place. Loved that work.
One Heart sponsor also.
I was going to say, you're going to pass by their door down the hall there when you leave.
Still got a lot of friends there. Served in ministry, which is a whole other aspect of my life that has been extremely meaningful to me. But, on that list, I had, I wrote this list when I was young, but there are several things in there that are kind of funny when I look back on it. I had become world champion on there, Charity.
At what?
Yeah, I think probably wrestling, but I don't know. It said become world champion. I'm pretty sure that was probably my thought is I'll do that. I think I was greatly inspired by like Forrest Gump or something where you do lots of different things in your life. Something I really would love to do is write a book. And I have started several books over the years. I do love to read, although my reading has decreased recently. But and I don't know if it's like so much my story. I don't know if I feel like that's the thing right now. But I do feel this like the idea of going away someday and writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it's probably nonfiction, but you never know. That was on the list. I wanted to write a best-selling book.
So even way back then?
Way back then.
Okay.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you what the book was. I just knew that would be really awesome to leave that behind. And I think it's because I do enjoy a good book. So that's a big part of it. I had things like host my own show, which is kind of funny now. Everybody's got podcasts.
I mean, we
now.
could turn you loose here if you'd like.
By the way, I have a podcast I do with Home Slice called Meeting with the Mayor.
Oh, I
record it every Friday.
Yeah,
I did that earlier today on the day of this recording. Don't know when it's coming out, but that plays on the Cowboy and then its own podcast. But that's it's usually just kind of city issues, not like here's everything I want to talk about with life or anything. But today we talked a lot about drainage and AI. So
right up your alley. Good drainage story.
Yeah.
Drainage, and flooding and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see down the road what kind of stuff happens there. But I think start my own business was on there. There were several kind of more influence goals, and it wasn't really just job titles per se.
Put you on the spot. If you could start your own podcast that has nothing to do with politics or city issues, what would it be about?
I'm a big. There are probably several things. Leadership would be a great one, but I'm a big believer in the importance of fathers because it's so
that
lacking.
Would be good. Yeah.
Yes, it would.
So lacking, and there are other people doing great work, but I think there's a generation that that
several
might need
generations that have
And I think
missed
we
out
see
on
the
that.
effect of that. I've always kind of had a passion for that, and obviously faith and probably culture. I have such diverse. Sometimes I think I just want to do a fun one,
Yeah.
like a pro wrestling podcast or something.
That's kind of what I thought
Would be a
Yeah.
niche. You could have a ton of listeners with that.
There are plenty of people that do that. Sometimes I get
Whiplash
real
with
deep, and
Mayor
sometimes sometimes I just want to talk about the most
randomness.
I am very
You need to create a word here. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's stuff you talking about escape. That's probably an escape. Probably was as a kid. It's like makes you forget about what's going on. I know what it is, but I don't care. I enjoy it, and it's more mainstream now than it used to be when I was growing up. But sometimes I think I'll just do something fun like that because I'm in such serious work.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in this time of life that, we do a lot of really big things. So usually I deal with so much drama in serving our city, and there's ups and downs. It's an off-road adventure that I don't want that in my life. I want my life to be stable, but the ups and downs, like sometimes I'm like, oh, this is the best, coolest thing ever. And you're like, the other times you're like,
Next day, it's like,
this is like
just
the
kidding.
worst thing. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck's wrong with people? And then,
Yeah.
sometimes it's my fault. It's just, why did I say that?
The off-roading is a fantastic analogy.
That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
It truly is an off-road adventure. Everybody I've talked to who's been in this role in other cities, and our city is too. It comes with the territory. If you are a people pleaser, that will quickly be erased because you cannot make everybody happy. And so you just have to be honest about who you are, what you want to do. Either people are with you or against you. You're going to try things. You're going to fail sometimes. But the fact is, you're in roles like this to try to make things better. And that's, what I try to do. And I can feel myself learning and growing all of the time in the role.
Good.
I'm smiling
That's
because
important,
my
yeah.
dad used to say, if you think you're going to please everybody, basically don't run for office.
No,
You have to be willing to do what is best for the most people, and that will not make everybody happy. And so if that's your only goal is to make everybody happy, forget it. And it's...
So how do you deal with that loud minority that is so difficult to work with? And it doesn't matter what the issue is. There's always that pocket of people on any particular issue. As you're navigating these things, how do you deal with that?
Well, we're government, so everybody has the right to speak their mind, and doesn't mean I'm right about everything. So on my best days, I try to have, humility to say, am I wrong? Is there something? Am I missing something here? For me, what's important is I have people in my life that are not political people, but I have people in my life that I go to, and I say, am I wrong? Am I off base here? Am I turning into something? Is this my pride getting in the way, or whatever? And if I'm disappointing the people that I respect, my family for sure, but I have other people in my life, that helps me say, am I off track? When I ran for office, we had 5 people running. One of the things I wanted to do was be really honest about who I am and what I'm about. So everybody, and some people probably got sick of it, but if you were really into it, but I was really straightforward about it. And the reason I'm straightforward about it is I want everybody to know what they would get. And also I actually handle disagreement really well. I don't handle dishonesty well. So I want you to know who I am and what I'm about. You may not agree with me. So when we're going through things and you're like, why is he this way or that way? It's not like I presented myself one way and became another. It's always been important to me. So whether it's my political leanings or my faith or the approaches and strategies I think would work best on particular issues, I was pretty straightforward about that. And that was to try to build trust, because I don't think trust is agreement. I think trust is at least you are what you say you are.
I know where you stand.
And I might be over here on that, but at least you're there.
Yeah.
And then we can have a real good faith conversation, because I'm here and I'm here, and you're not just this moving target. It's one of the things I learned on the council. Initially you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give this, easement for this variance for their easement for drainage to make them happy. And then you find out, oh, there's a major rain event. I shouldn't have done that. You learn very quickly you can't make everybody happy. Like I said, that was something, Charity, you can understand this. And you say, well, there's a reason why some of these things are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't let it go to heart. That's how I deal with this. I try not to let arrows that come my way go to heart unless it's something I did deserve. If I
feel
did
like
mean
it's
it.
getting easier
Well,
with time, or because I've seen you. We won't talk about those issues because this isn't going to be political. But I've watched you go through some of those hard times, and
I get contentious
yeah.
comments made at me, and people assume an action I would take is targeting them or something. It's usually not the case. I don't really try not to let it bother me too much. The tough part is when there are people that I like that are on the other end of an issue and they have to speak out. And I'm like, I've known this person for 30 years and we are just going to disagree on this, or this is too close to home. Those are tougher for me.
They?
Those are the tougher ones, but I have a job to do. I got to do the right thing. And so, there are issues in our city that I certainly have, let's say, a tough love approach on, that others would have a completely different approach and they think I'm wrong. And maybe I am, because I always say, is what we're doing working or not? That's always one of my questions. Is this working? If it's working so well, why isn't it working well? That's a thing I got from the movie Moneyball. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have, yeah.
So this scene, for the listeners and out there, so Moneyball is a great movie. Brad Pitt's in it. It's about a baseball scout, the Oakland A's, and they're watching this hitter. This film footage of a hitter just with this beautiful swing, and the scouts are around this table. They're like, "Look at that swing! He's gonna be a good big leaguer. That's a beautiful swing." And they're all writing their notes. We've got to call him up from the minors to the majors. And Brad Pitt's character is looking at his statistics and some of the ones that he's looking at that aren't even the typical ones. He goes, "Well, if he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good?" I mean, yeah, he's got a beautiful swing, but he can't get on base for crap. So they bring up the old grizzled guy who could get on base, which was the kind of the thing. Well, I think about that, like even in the city, if that's working well, why isn't it working well? Or is it working well?
Yeah.
So if we're doing something that's working well, great. But if we keep doing the same thing and it's not working well, then maybe it's not working. So sometimes I do that, where you have to evaluate. So sometimes maybe someone has a good point. Hey, you keep throwing all this money towards this, but the problem's actually worse. Now, would it be even worse if we weren't doing that? Or is it that that's actually not really driving the issue? And a lot of our issues in the government, we're dealing with the symptoms of deeper issues that are not, the government's not going to solve. We deal with the symptoms of social issues. And so upstream of that, I talk a lot about, healthy families and those sort of things. Not the only thing, but that would help. Drugs.
My husband says that every day.
Yeah. So you got, why does someone end up with this situation? Well, because of addiction. Well, that's terrible. So addiction, we need to fight that. But why do people get an addiction? Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it's, there's a lot of reasons why people get there. It doesn't take much to get hooked on some of the things they have now.
Correct.
Not
right.
at
Predispositions. And so government's not going to solve that. I'm like, all I know is I always say that public safety starts in the heart and the home. I use that phrase a lot because I'm like, that's where it begins. That when we're dealing, like, say, law enforcement issues, something went wrong. Something went wrong to get you there, or a circumstance happened. And there are upstream things. I will talk about those, but there's not a lot I can do about them except encourage people and talk about those issues. But at the same time, we have a job to do. We have to enforce the law. That's something we're committed to. And so because of like that hard line of enforcing the law, not everybody appreciates that. And I've tried, and we have great people that actually do that work. I mean, that's the thing. We have like remarkable people. Like I would put our people up against anybody. They're firm and fair, tough, but they care. I didn't mean to rhyme. I'm a poet and don't know it.
I was just like waiting for you to.
DJ Jazzy Jason over here. But anyways, so,
Best clip right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Mark that one. Yeah.
So I mean, there are days that bother me. I do get preoccupied with things sometimes. And usually the preoccupation for me is going to be when I'm working hard on something and I got political pressure here or budget issue there. I mean, how are you going to solve these problems? And the other thing is there's a great quote by an economist named Thomas Sowell, I think about, and because everybody wants a solution to something. He says, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. So always think about that. Well, so what's the trade-off here? We can do this, but there's always a price to pay somewhere. It's going to come from something. And is that worth the juice, worth the squeeze there?
Right.
That's a constant evaluation that we're after. But emotionally, Charity, I'll tell you, I've been so blessed just to be even. If every day is an off-road adventure, then I have to try to stay even. And for me, that's been big. I have people in my life that love me. Frankly, my identity is not wrapped up in my job title. I've had titles. I can promise you that your purpose runs deeper than your position. If you find your identity in that, you will not always have that, and you will be lost later on. So I don't get too tied up in that. I do believe I'm here for a reason. I certainly have purpose in the work that we're doing, trying to do the best we can. I am human, so I'm certain to fail at times, but I'm also here to make change. I'm not messing around. So, and there's, other than like public safety, we're trying to get businesses in town. We're growing at such a fast clip, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Our housing prices are too high. Because we need to get more inventory. That keeps us off some of the best places to live lists because our salaries and our salaries versus our average home prices are too far apart.
Yeah.
And so we got to shrink that, and that means getting more inventory in here and supply demand issue, but also can we be more attractive to businesses? Because I look at it like my whole vision for Rapid City is that it's a great place to raise a family. Really, it's that kids thrive and families flourish. And if they do, we all win, even if you don't have kids. Even if you're empty nesting like I am, I want to live where kids are thriving and families flourish. Because if you have that, then you have the human part of that you're investing in the next generation. That means if that's happening, that the parents have jobs or in a decent place to live, that the kids are getting an education and are safe, and that there's fun things to do, that people can fulfill their purpose. If all of that's happening, then you have a future. Because literally, if you aren't having children and building a city for the next generation, you have no civilization moving forward. It's a literal thing. It's not guaranteed the next generation. So I have very much the next generation in mind with a lot of things that we do, whether it's youth sports stuff and quality of life stuff, like to see the education system improved here. I don't have any authority on it, but I try to use whatever influence I have, to help it out. So
I always feel like we're all getting older, and who takes care of you when you get older? The younger people. So they need to, it behooves all of us, again, like you said, whether you have kids in the schools or not, to care about what happens to kids in your community, for sure. Well,
so I want to ask this one question.
Okay.
So
I'll let you
have
do it.
coffee with any historical figure. Who would it be, and what would you want to learn from them?
all right, we're gonna have to say besides Jesus.
Well, yes.
besides Jesus.
I have coffee with him every day, but that's pretty common. But and it's kind of like saying, what's your favorite book to read? Well, do you mean besides the Bible?
Yeah.
Because for me, and that's not to be preachy or anything, it is everything for me. It is the ultimate. So, that's a great question. I have a lot of admiration for bold leaders. So throughout history, I can probably go deeper, but like I've wanted to sit down with Winston Churchill, I think would be really interesting. Teddy Roosevelt. One of the best presidents I think we ever had was like Calvin Coolidge. People don't realize he was quiet, but he did a lot of good governance. Like he was a good dude. My president growing up was Ronald Reagan. I would love that. My childhood hero, I did get to meet. That's Hulk Hogan. So
nice.
I got to meet him and have a conversation with him and got his autograph and a picture and the whole. This is just like a 2021, so it wasn't even that long ago. So I've been pretty fortunate to meet some pretty amazing people. Did not disappoint.
Right.
so that was pretty cool, for me as a kid. But I love bold leadership. If I look at, if I was to go deeper, there are certainly biblical figures that, King David and King Solomon come to mind. The Apostle Paul, those kind of people for me, because of and they're not just in faith, but like what they actually went through, because we're still affected by all that era, and that's a unique time. So, boy, that's hard to point. It's really hard to pinpoint that. It's really hard to pinpoint that.
I like your answers, though.
Yeah, well, you do learn from like a lot of different leaders. I think some of your best mentors are dead, but they have books written about them, or they've written collected works, or whatever the case may be, and you can go and learn from them. So I instantly gravitated towards like, Winston Churchill's and Teddy Roosevelt types, because I really like bold leadership in hard times. So
where they're tested. It's not.
People, not their fame. That to me, even people I meet today, like I am most, I guess I'm most impressed, or I had the most respect for the people who overcome adversity. That I know they went through it, and they have the scars to show, and they came out the other side. And that's,
that's you realize that.
Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep going.
And I like people who kept going and say, I got scars. Oh, you too. I have scars. And the scars, every story has a struggle. And so a scar reveals the struggle of a story. And the stories that you overcame it. And that's always the big thing. People who are in difficult situations, even if you're really in a hard time now, facing addiction, coming out of incarceration, maybe it's your work, maybe you have financial or health issues or relationship issues, but you keep going. Like the perseverance and determination, your struggle doesn't have to define you. You can actually have victory. And this society right now, and at least our modern society, loves people that play the victim card. It's like we get awards for how many punches we can get on our victim card. So I can sit here and tell my story and tell you how I'm the victim of a lot of different circumstances. But the story isn't that. The story is, despite those things, and it's not just because of me, I had a lot of love and help along the way. Despite those things, we overcame and we got through it. And you can too. That's why you tell those stories. So when I tell you about my childhood and tell you about my mama and papa, or my parents up here, or my wife and what she means to me, or the friends in my life that keep me grounded today, or whatever the case may be. When my kids are going through hard times, like I remember my daughter was like, I don't know if I want to finish this elementary education degree. I'm like, you're too far along. Do it. Just do it. I mean, you're an adult. I can only give you dad advice now, but I'm telling you, do it.
Dad advice, I love it.
So when she gets to graduation, it's so much sweeter because it sucked at time and you did it anyways. Yeah. And you have so many people like, well, if it gets hard, just stop. No, push through. Doesn't mean you have to do it forever. That sense of accomplishment, Charity, I know you understand this.
Yes, I do.
You do. You have that story. And so I have instant respect, even with people I wouldn't always agree with on things. I have instant respect for people who went through it and came out the other side. I'm automatically, because I know they're made of something. And I also know it's too rare these days. And so I get fired up like...
I can feel it.
Well, I do. I get fired up like let's say there's people that you're helping here at One Heart right now that are listening to this. I would want them to know it might be a tough time. And you're fortunate you have found a service that'll help you get back on your feet. You can do it. It's not... It's anybody tells you it's easy, they're wrong. It can be hard. You're going to have to make some sacrifices, but will it be worth it? It will, and you can, and people have. And you become like the 5 people you hang out with most. So choose those 5 people wisely. And if there's a bunch of people who are telling you to quit or to stop or are resentful or jealous of you or whatever the case may be. Or
backslide.
You know what? Yeah. Instead, there's healthy people who help you get better. You help them get better. That is what you have to do. And so one of my pet peeves is wasted potential. I see it all the time. I see it in communities, organizations, and people, and even in my own life, I've seen my own potential wasted on things. But that ability to say, no, we have to maximize that potential, and that means it's going to be hard, but you can do it. You fall down 7 times, you get back up 8.
Yep.
I love that in people. So when I look at historical figures, I gravitate towards that. When I look at people and their stories and the things I think really matter, I look at that. When I look at people I hire, I kind of want to hear, like, what's your backstory? Tell me about a tough time that you overcame adversity on. Those are good questions to ask, because I want to make sure that when the first bad day hits, you're not running for the hills, that we're in this, that let's do this. And so I think that to me is really important, that people know that about themselves. And I recognize as one of the many leaders in this community that I have to set that example, that we'll get through it. And we'll go through tough times as a community, and I know, and we have, and I've watched that even other leaders before me lead through those tough times. I admire that. I think I'm uniquely built for that kind of stuff, because of probably the way I was raised, just to get through those tough times. Not saying it's easy for me, but that's kind of like the drive and passion.
Yeah, I think it does. That was going to be my question, is just because of that childhood experience, the multiple childhood experiences, you bring that to the role that you're in now. And it probably does change how you lead a little bit, you think?
Yeah. I get people try to give me guilt trips about a lot of different things. And I'm like, well, I've seen that. I mean, I know. One of the criticisms I get, and it has to do with my faith, because I'm so open, is I thought you're supposed to love your neighbor. Don't you love people? And what does love?
Real?
What does love mean? I say I agree.
Wow.
I agree with you, but I find out that our definitions of love are very different.
I would, yeah.
And my analogy is, I love my kids enough that if all you saw was me yelling at my kid to get out of the road, and all you heard is yelling, you didn't hear what I was saying, you're like, what a terrible dad. But you find out there was a car coming, I was yelling to try to get them. You might say,
Safety.
oh, thank God they said something. Yeah. So who's loving? I'm not going to participate in someone's self-destruction and call it love. I think love is sometimes, I've been in situations where I've loved someone so much that I've not endorsed the way they are living, and they cut me out of their life. It's hard, but I can't I'm not going to lie to you because I love you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'll try to do it with grace and all that. But that's, again, we are in such a polarized world that you can't entertain two things at the same time. Right. That perhaps my love for you, or this love for the community, is, we are viewing it very differently. And my view of love is it's not an emotion; it's a choice. And love requires sacrifice. Love looks out for the best interests of someone, and and not just, and like, as a community, I have to love you, but if my loving you hurts her, who
right.
What am I doing? So that's always a constant thing. Is like, well, I have to just do what's best and keep a straight line, walk a straight line, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Because I get called all the names, and people make videos or do all that stuff. They can say what they want, but I know my heart. I know my intention. And sometimes I've had to ask a couple people, am I off base? Is there something I'm missing here? And, and it's encouraging when others come alongside you. Of course, that's reinforcements, but it could be, leadership is a very lonely place. I talk to many leaders, and because of the weight they carry, that you just will not understand that unless you're in those shoes. And there's a loneliness to leadership. So it is helpful to talk to other leaders, and just as anybody in life. But when you are responsible for other people, every parent feels this, you're responsible for other people. It can be hard. So like, if you're a dad, you're like, it's tough being a dad sometimes. You're talking to other dads, it helps. Like, there's an iron sharpening iron thing there. And that's true with leadership as well. I don't think people realize that, but I've talked to enough leaders that I know at all levels. I got a good friend who's become pretty good friends with the mayor in Sioux Falls, and even though we probably don't see everything eye to eye, but I appreciate his insights and his input. He's gone through similar things. That's always been a nice thing, where you can bounce back things and say, did you ever go through this? You're further ahead down the road. Tell me what you think. What's your advice? Or even just like, here's what we're dealing with, man. Are you dealing with this? And I'll be like, yeah, we actually in Rapid, we deal with that too. Here's what we've done. you help each other out. And I think that's a good thing too. So don't journey alone.
No, I want to speak to
Good advice.
your love comment for a moment,
All right.
loving people and what that means. And I'm not going to tell Charity a story she hasn't heard a million times because she's heard it too. But one of the eye-opening things for me here was a guest. I think it was probably we were 2 years in, and I did a video interview with him. And one of the things he said was, "This place holds you accountable, and that makes me feel valued." And I thought, so often people think that the way we care about somebody is to give them everything. What we did was give him options and opportunities to make a difference himself. And that's when he really, it really gave him his value and self-confidence, and he found a lot of worth in that. And we don't just, it's not a pull yourself up by the bootstrap. We have tons of services and support and all those things, but it was, even working here, I was just like, it kind of smacked me in the face because I was like, that is awesome, and what a gift for me to hear it. But I mean, that's really what he said. He really felt like I can do it because I have this support system under me. Like I'm doing it. And that was the part that he held on to. And I loved it. And I thought, yeah, like sometimes caring is not just doing it. It's not just doing it for somebody necessarily. It's giving them the opportunity to
creating
do
the
it.
space and the structure so that they can, like you said, tap into that potential that they have and exercise that. We've been doing interviews all week for a project we're working on, and one of the applicants asked me what my favorite thing is about One Heart, and the job wasn't even related to One Heart. And I thought about it, and like to kind of speak to this theme was I have stood witness to 2 moments, and I'm sure there are many others because I don't do direct services on this campus, right? But stood witness to 2 men and had conversations with them where they grew their integrity muscles and exercised that for the first time and realized that this is that next step in my evolution is integrity. Mm-hmm. It's owning something even when I know the consequences may be really, really bad. But I'm going to do this and I'm going to walk through this because I am not that same person who made that earlier choice. And those have been some of the most profound moments for me. And it really speaks to, it's that potential, it's exercising it, it's holding people accountable. You don't get there unless you have that model, of accountability. It makes all the difference.
Yeah. That kids thrive in structure. And I can tell you, as someone who lived unstructured and structured, I felt more loved, safe, and belonged.
Absolutely.
In the structured, I didn't like it as a teenager. I don't like the rules. You don't like it, but you have that. And the same is true, I think, in a community or an organization, that when you have that structure and it's consistent, because the world ever change. There's always things changing in the world. There's very few things you can count on.
Yeah.
But what shouldn't change? And those are timeless principles. I think people are craving that. I think people are craving, in a world that's just in constant chaos, what are things that never change?
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of uptick in people interested in faith. I think was part of that. It's like, well, what is this thing that never changes, even in different contexts and cultures and times and places? I think that's a big one. But even your kids,
to that stability, though.
Yeah, and you're right, because I think even as kids, and I'm not even sure I fully got that as a dad. I knew I was supposed to set rules, but I don't think I could have articulated it in the moment. Well, you're going to thrive in structure. It's going to help you become, safe. I just knew, no, I'm not going to let you hurt yourself. You can't hit your brother. No,
right.
You put your nose in the corner. You had consequences, and you're like the meanest dad, and you're called the names, and moms too.
I hate you.
You go through all of that, but to this day, my kids, both adults, both married, they love me and I love them. And it's going to be okay, even in those moments. And whether they're toddlers throwing tantrums or teenagers throwing tantrums, you still have to do that.
no.
And that's love.
Julie's just
They will
entering
tell
the
you that you're
teenage
not
realm.
loving. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just embarking upon that journey.
Yes.
They're going to, at times, you'll be made to feel like you aren't loving. You're going to have to know, I love you too much to let you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Actually, that is actually love. So I think of that parenting has probably been the best leadership lessons I've ever learned.
Absolutely.
That's
Because
fascinating. I love it. Yeah.
It
great.
applies all over the place. And so I have certainly not been the perfect parent.
No, nobody is.
Well, listen, you talk about I'm someone who always did multiple things. I was in the Air Force and had a part-time job. Then I got a job and I did an internship. Then I did an internship. Then I got a job and I was going to college at night. Then I was doing a job and I was serving in ministry. And then I was serving in ministry and I was serving in city council. And I've always done that. And so my one bit of regret while the kids were little is I always made time for them. Always had date night with my daughter, and my son and I had adventures together. Those things always happen, but I could have been more intentional, you know? So that's always one of my regrets. Like now that they're older, is like, we should have taken more trips together. We should have made more memories together, but we also did a lot of things, a lot more than I ever did as a kid, but I look back and say I probably could have done more. Well, I'll learn and grow from that. But the fact is, we always prioritize the kids. They watched me turn down opportunities for them. So they also see that. They're like, Dad didn't do this, or he loved doing that and he stopped doing it because he wanted to be home more. That also happened. And so I think those lessons as a parent still come into play today, even though I'm older, and eventually I'll have grandkids and I can just be like, here's what I learned, you know? But
yeah,
we had kids young, so we're in an empty nesting phase.
Same.
And the beauty of it is you paid all these dues, you didn't have any money to do anything with. And by the time you're doing okay, then the kids are gone. And I think that's why I became mayor. It helped me deal with empty nesting.
you would have been bored without running a city.
You think so?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, considering you're
bored.
always doing double things, this probably feels like a double thing.
But
Or quadruple, or
yeah, and I don't plan to ever retire, really. You know, always do something. I think. Now, I don't know if I have to do all the things all the time. At some point, I'm going to feel old and like just want a nap.
I think you'll know if you're like, okay, I'm good. Then you can just be like the person who volunteers for everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
And I like warm weather, so you know, maybe when I'm old, it'll be. I'm probably end
Travel.
up going wherever my kids are.
Yeah.
Got one in Tennessee now, one's here, so we'll see what the future looks like. But
Right.
I have one here and one's going to Miami in August.
Oh.
Alec is.
hey, do you know what the Miami of South Dakota is?
No.
No.
They call Vermilion calls themselves the Miami of South Dakota.
Oh,
do.
for real. Do they?
Well, at least they did. I don't know if they still do, but that was I had to hold up a sign at USD that said that for Leadership South Dakota once. I like the Miami of South
Miami
Dakota.
of South Dakota.
Because it's the far southeast.
Yeah, I think it's more
corner,
about like
geographic.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
a geographic
guess.
thing.
Yeah.
Right, and there is kind of
little
a
tiny
point to
peninsula.
South Dakota.
So it's the
Little tiny-
Miami.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to let it slide. All right, let's wrap things up. But first, escaping to someplace. It's not the projects
thing,
you
state
have
of
to
mind,
do,
dinner.
something you want to do.
Well, this weekend I'm escaping into a date with my wife.
Yay.
We have graduation parties.
Okay.
People are graduating. You know, our happy place is when we're both home on our recliners with dogs in our laps.
Love it.
And it doesn't happen enough. So
No.
when it happens, it's very nice because it really begins and ends with us. And, you know, and that's in a relationship. My favorite person to spend time with is Gwenny. Now, she doesn't like country music or wrestling, so I have to find other people to hang out with me to do that kind of stuff. But she'll do everything else,
There you go.
you know. But we love to go out to eat and hang out together. So that's what I'm escaping to. I'm escaping to Gwen.
Charity.
Well, maybe sushi again. I was just thinking about it because my daughter and I took my mother-in-law shopping last weekend. And while we dropped her off for a pedicure, my daughter and I went over to Fuji.
Oh.
And I was like
Yummy.
thinking the last time I'd been there, it might have been with you guys. It was a long
was a
time
long
ago.
time
I know.
ago.
And I was like, this is so good. So now I'm kind of crazy.
That was probably 2016, 17 timeframe then that you were there. Or did we go since? Did we gone since then? I can't remember. You know,
I
it
don't think
all
it
is a
was that
blur to
long
me,
ago.
Charity. Hasn't been since I've been mayor. That's
well,
for
no,
sure.
no, no. But Oh,
It's
boy.
all a blur, is
It
what
is.
he's saying.
It is all a blur, but we did. Four of us did a little double date night, and
Okay.
yeah, we love. Like I can tell you where my favorite pizza is in town, where I think the best burgers are in town. Great steak. That's kind of. I'm not even an adventurous eater. She is. Like I don't like sushi. Ugh. I don't like seafood, mayonnaise, Alfredo sauces. Ugh. You think growing up poor, eating government cheese and stale crackers, that I wouldn't be a picky eater, but I am. It's just a weird thing.
That's kind of
Probably some
interesting.
psychological.
Nostalgic, yeah. That
I mean, it
processed
happens.
cheese is
I love processed
Yeah.
cheese. Though. But you would think that I
same.
would
Right,
like,
yeah.
open to eating anything, but there's so many things I don't like. It's usually about combinations of food.
Sometimes it's also what you're exposed to. Like you probably went a long time without being exposed to certain things. Maybe that made a difference.
Well, living in the South, a lot of brisket,
You know, it's kind of
sweet
funny
tea.
though, because I hated Alfredo sauce too
Ugh.
for years and years and years. And it was like we did some stupid college alumni thing on a bus trip that involved a lot of alcohol, ended up in Deadwood. And there was this little Italian joint back in the day there. And so Tim and I, obviously we were just dating, we weren't married yet, went down there and he's like, I'm like, you just got to try it. And then I ended up loving it.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
So I don't
listen,
know.
when I was a kid, I didn't like broccoli, and I like broccoli. Not cooked broccoli, but I like raw broccoli.
Yeah.
I got so many rules. Gwen says it's the worst thing about me. She's like, if people knew this about you, they would just be you would never get elected again. I say, well, just tell everybody. So I'm telling you now. So if you elect me, you knew it coming in. I mean, that was just.
It's the honesty that you talked about at the beginning. You have to know going in exactly how he feels, and he has lots of rules about things.
Stay away from Alfredo
All
sauce.
right.
I can be very particular.
I am just escaping to a 3-day weekend. We don't have any big plans, and I am A-okay with that. Sometimes those are my favorite weekends.
Where you don't have anything.
When we don't
Yeah.
have anything going on.
I like that too. Just hibernate, especially if it's going to be rainy.
Yeah,
Just
it's not going to
hibernate.
be the best of
I'm a big
weather.
hibernator. Unless it's sunny, then I'm going to be outside.
I know all these people who are like, oh, we're going camping. And I'm like, this sounds like a terrible weekend. to be
Camping and I, we broke up a long time
So
ago.
Gwen did too with camping. I love camping. I have this great desire to get out. Now, I don't like to camp when everybody else is camping because that defeats the purpose.
Right.
And because I have so many things going on, you talk about the hibernation. I would say the last couple of years, like when I'm not doing stuff, I don't want to do anything. I
Right.
just want to go home. Usually I'm working at home. I mean, there's always something going on, as you know. It's always I always
Yeah.
get these phone calls
Turn
about
the
stuff
phone
popping off. But that is like awesome. Like I've found myself like craving that. But I'm really like I could feel the need to go outside though. Like whether it's a hunting trip or camping, maybe not the rainy weekend this weekend, but
Right.
I've got
Just
that.
be
Something
in
on the
nature.
calendar.
Got the call of the wild.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I know. I get to that point too, though, where no more decisions.
Yep.
If Tim asks me, like, what are you thinking for dinner? I'm ready. Listen, dude, figure it out. No more decisions. I just can't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel all of this.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. Thank you so much for
Well, yeah.
this
Thank
was
you.
fun. I'm
Thanks
glad
for
it
inviting
worked
me.
out.
Hopefully, I talked about what you wanted me to talk.
No, it was great. It was great. And I think I don't know that there's ever been a single podcast episode that I have like promoted to our guests, but you speaking to them about
Yeah,
that
we can.
journey and going through there, I think the next orientation I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I want to give this a listen.
Well,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
I
I
appreciate
talked
it.
to some ladies at Passages once real quick, and I remember I told a bit of this story, but I really felt the need to tell them, listen, you think your mistakes are going to hurt your children. There's always hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted them to know that. Like, it's not too late. It's never
Yeah.
too late. And the time to change, time to take those steps is now. And so, not that that's always your guess, but I remember saying that. And, you know, this is obviously community, you probably have a broader audience than that. But I think I just want folks to know that hope remains.
Absolutely.
There is hope. And it is, I'm a living testament. I'm one of many, though. And that's what's cool.
And we're adding to those numbers every
Come on.
day here.
All right.
So right
Yeah, I
on.
know.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You incredible escape artists out there, we're grateful for every one of you sticking with us. The Escape Pod is a labor of love. Your support keeps us going. We're on a mission to grow this podcast so we can pour more resources into the nonprofit One Heart in Rapid City, South Dakota. You heard us talk a little bit about it today, where every dollar empowers people to break free from crisis and reclaim their lives. More listeners, more downloads, more impact.
That's right. We really are a podcast for a cause.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you come in. You can become a patron at escapepod.live and not only unlock bonus content, which we have been hard at work pumping out, but unlock the warm fuzzies of knowing you're funding real life breakouts. It's a win-win in this day and age when those seem harder and harder to come by. And just for a few bucks a month, you're not just a listener, you're a hero in our story.
And please download. It boosts our stats, pulls in more ad revenue, and helps us climb the charts so we can reach more ears. So share us with a friend, rate and review wherever you listen. And again, hit the download button, subscribe, follow whatever it is on whatever platform you're listening on.
And we really do want to hear from you. If you have not heard the story battle, all I'm going to say is it involves cheese. You're going to have to tune in to listen, see who win.
Jeez.
Who won? Is it Julie? Is it me? But you can drop us a note at justbecause at escapepod.live. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, ideas you have for the show, or you can send your escape story into escapeartist at escapepod.live.
We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us. Remember, everybody, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional. So stay resilient.
And keep laughing, everybody.